I must resist. It's too much temptation. I knew this would happen. I've only gone and bought another tank. Hello and welcome to the channel. Well, many people said to me, once you get your first tank, you will inevitably want to get a second tank. And I decided I was going to go for a shrimp tank. I've actually got some shrimps in the main Roma 240 tank that you've seen here on the channel, but I decided I wanted to specialise. I wanted to do this right this time, so I spent a lot of time on the internet and Discord and Reddit and other places looking to try and get the right advice on how to do this properly, making sure that the water parameters are correct, making sure that I had everything to be a successful shrimp keeper. So here's the tank, the Ciano 25 litre, and as you can see there are actually shrimps on the box here. And this is a small enough manageable tank at 25 litres that I think we should be able to manage what I'm aiming for. Of course, a larger tank does mean that the water parameters are easier to care for. I'm going to be using a black matte stick-on material that goes on three sides of this tank, as I'm going to be placing this in my kitchen, and I will keep on screen all the prices of everything that I've purchased. So if you're wanting to keep shrimp for the first time and you don't want to put them in your main tank, then you can follow along with me and hopefully we can share our adventures together in the wonderful world of shrimp keeping. There isn't a massive outlay of equipment that we actually need for this, and contrary to belief, you don't need a heater unless it's in a room where the temperature will change vastly. I'm going to be looking at keeping Neocaradina, and I'm hoping at some point to be able to start breeding blue dreams. Cherry shrimps are the advised shrimp when it comes to beginners, but I think if you keep the water parameters correct and you keep on top of this and you really want to look after them properly, I think some of the other species will be manageable for us at this stage. I looked at a lot, and I do mean a lot, of aquarium biochemical sponge filters, and this one seemed to come up again and again and again. And this wasn't very expensive. I bought this directly from Amazon, and I'm hoping that this will suffice for the tank size that we've got. But hey ho, we'll find out once we get this out of the box and we get everything plugged in. Our substrate is inert, which means it will not affect the water parameters and the pH, meaning you can get more of a stable water condition. And this is a really fine 0.7 to 1.2 millimeters. It's like a jet crystal black from a Denaril, and this again came highly recommended from a lot of shrimp keepers out there, and I did get 2 bags just in case one wasn't enough. And again, the expense here, it was not really going to break the bank. I also bought this little clay toy, a shrimp Rubik's Cube, so that the shrimps can go inside and hide if they need some shelter. I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to be using this or something else, and I think at some point I will be using real plants rather than putting in plastic just for the sake of it. So this is our 25 litre tank, quite a nice small compact little thing with 4 LED lights up at the top with a simple on-off switch. I've cleaned this glass. I have washed it about 3 or 4 times, both on the inside and the outside, making sure that everything is nice and pucker and clean. And as you can see, the LED lights up there. And apparently you can download the app to change the colours. I've also got this on this kind of rubber non-slip matting here on my kitchen worktop. Need to tidy it up a little bit, which you can get these from B&Q, Wix and places like that. It's compact and small, and the reasons I want to black the sides off are to stop the daylight from my main door getting in the tank, and it also makes the shrimps, the colours really pop and stand out once you've actually got that black backing on. I just realised, I'm sorry ladies and gentlemen, for the bag of rubbish that you can see down at the bottom right. I started to empty the bins, and because everything came from the delivery driver, I was so keen to get this done. And you may be thinking, that kitchen looks atrocious. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know it does. I am getting a complete new kitchen, but of course with coronavirus now, everything's on hold. So this is the backing. We simply wet the tank. I'm sure you've seen this stuff before. I will cut a lot of this out. We wet it and we put this over the wet water, and then using a credit card or your hands, if you can get most of the air out, we're just going to squeeze the air bubbles out, leave this for a few hours, and that should set on this tank. And what I may do is I may put 3 sides on, but I might take one off pending how it looks in the kitchen on a night time and being able to get access and having a good look at our shrimpage. But there we go. We're going to put this on, get the air bubbles out, and then what we're going to do is it's dried. We're going to use a scalpel or a knife along the edge and just trim off the excess that comes off on the sides. So now we're moving on to the next stage. We're going to be washing and scrubbing and cleaning the gravel, and I can tell you it's a really nice jet black. It's really beautiful and it's got a very fine texture to it. So we're going to put both bags in here, and incidentally these sort of foldable, bendable buckets are brilliant for using in the aquarium world. I put my python in there quite a lot and other things when I'm cleaning the tank out. I'm just going to be washing this in fairly warm water 4 or 5 times until the water in there goes clear, and then what we shall do is we shall take the sand and the water out of here and then put that into our tank by hand. On to the next stage. So we're literally going to squeeze some of the water out here and drop this sand directly into the tank, and we want to make sure that we get around an inch at least in the tank near the front. You don't want to have this as too thick because you can get dangerous gas bubbles that will build up in the sediment as food and ammonia start to rot in the sediment. So we're just going to scoop all this out now, get this in here, and then we shall get the aquascaping tools out and start to give this a little bit of a shape, and we shall level it so that there is a little bit of a rise at the back. This is a very small tank, but this is our first foray into proper shrimp keeping, and if this is successful then I probably will buy a bigger tank, or maybe 2 or 3 more here on the worktop, and we shall breed different types of shrimp such as bumblebee, crystal, you name it. We shall get a few and start to learn from the beginning with the easier type of shrimps, which I think is probably the Neocaradinas, and then as you get more experienced, got to be on the ball, we'll move up to the Caradinas. So now we have the substrate in there and it's fairly level. It will level off a little bit more once the water's in. I wondered whether we should put this skull in. I actually had this in the main tank for a while, giving the shrimps a little bit of shelter, but then it seems to be they just went in the reeds and the plants and didn't really bother with it. Not sure whether it's a little bit of Cheeseville. Now I do have one of my Dragonstone rocks available from the Roma 240 here, but I'm not sure whether this is going to be too big. It might fit nicely in there if we get some moss and some grasses and things like that, but I've got to remember that the filter has to go in this tank at the back as well. Now whether you should have gone for a bigger tank, or maybe we just need a little bit of a smaller main feature here. So I may position this in, but I may put the skull in and we'll have a little bit of fun and call it Skull Island or something like that. So future videos we can do a little bit of a series and you'll know exactly what's coming. Well, in the end, I decided it was going to be the skull. And the reason for that is purely because that stone was too big. And I think that the shrimps will need something in there. And as I mentioned, you've got to keep into account that we're going to need to get this filter in the back somewhere. And that takes up quite a lot of space. It may be better for us actually in this tank to go for crystal bee shrimps or something that's on the smaller sides. The Amano shrimps and the Blue Dreams can get quite big. But we shall decide that, and you can probably help me decide because I'll put a poll up and ask for your feedback. Now it's time to add the filter media in here that actually comes with this filter. We put these in the little buckets, put the sponges back on top, and we are ready, almost, ladies and gentlemen, to rock and roll. We will have to connect up the Tetra Whisper air pump, but that's not really a big job. We just connect it to the small pipe here on the sponge filter. So there she is. There's our Skull Mountain or our Skull Island. Let me know what you think we should call it in the comments box below. We have it all connected up via the pump, and there she is. And we will probably get some plants in there that don't require CO2, some mosses or ferns. And here we have the Tetra Whisper. And I can tell you now that when this is on full, it sounds just like a fridge, slightly vibrating, if that makes sense. You can hear it there, and if you place this on a piece of rubber, you can hardly hear this at all. And here we have a little stop valve at the back, so we can control the amount of air that's coming out of this. But I think for now, we need to get some water in here. time to add the water, and I'm actually using the Python here from the sink directly behind me, so it's going to be really easy for water changes when it comes to this. I'll actually just change the water on this tank when I do the water on the main aquarium, which, as you know, at the minute my fish are suffering from itch, and you've probably seen that in my previous video. So there we go, the shrimps are going to have a little bit of shelter. I probably will get some grasses and some moss and something in here, but I will be speaking to Aqua Essentials because that's where I get most of my plants from. I shall get from them, ask for some advice on what's the best ones, whether it's just moss balls or whether it's just the ferns and grasses. And it looks like the substrate is floating, but I've been told if you just tap it with some more water, it will actually sink. In fact, do you know what? I'm probably not going to use the Python. So all we need to do now is connect the Tetra Silent air pump, and we can change that little valve there, and there we go. That actually sounds really relaxing and quite nice. Now this sponge filter comes with two options. You can break the water flow up at the top, break the surface, or we can push this down and have it under the water and bubbling a little bit more to create a little bit of a current, which I think is probably what we might do. And there we go, bubbling away. It's got a really nice relaxing sound, and of course we can control this and turn it wherever we want to, and we can turn the valve up and down for a little bit more flow. But that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of part one. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've certainly enjoyed putting this together, and we shall see how our adventure goes after I've put in the water treatment and ammonia now in our next cycling of this tank, a fishless cycle. I'll see you in part two.